So we plan to cover the following 2 points in today's session. First is called as synchronized UJT triggering. And second is dynamic turn on and dynamic turn off characteristics of an SCR. So moving to the first topic today. Okay. So we'll first explain why we are using these three words. What is the meaning of the word synchronized, UJT and triggering? So triggering means we are going to triggering an SCR. We are going to trigger an SCR. So triggering of SCR, UJT is a device, active device which we are going to use. So in third year you are very clear what is the difference between a passive device and active device. So UJT is the active device or semiconductor device which we are going to use to generate the firing pulses. And when I say synchronized, it means it is synchronized with the mains. So when I say synchronized, it means synchronized with mains supply. Okay. So when I say synchronize, it means synchronized with the main supply. UJT is an active device and triggering or a SCR. So we can say it is generation of firing pulses which are synchronized with main supply to fire an SCR. So we can say synchronized UJT triggering can be defined as this. Say generating firing pulses which are means generating firing pulses which are synchronized with mains 50 Hz supply using UJT device to fire an SCR. Okay, so generating firing pulses which are synchronized with mains, that is 50 Hz supply, using UJT device to fire an SCR. So this sentence we will revisit after I complete the explanation. You will be able to appreciate it at the end of the discussion why we are telling that this topic means it actually refers to generating firing pulses which are synchronized with mains or 50 Hz supply using UJT device to fire an SCR. The question comes why there is a need to synchronize the firing pulses with the main supply. The reason is this. Now all of us know that SCR is fired at a firing angle alpha whose value ranges from greater than 0 degrees to less than equal to 180 degrees. Okay, so we already told before that the firing angle alpha is greater than 0 degrees and less than equal to 180 degrees, and we had made a point that alpha should never be equal to 0 degrees as it equates a diode operation. We do not want to operate the SCR as a diode, we want to operate the SCR as an SCR. That is why we say that here we have alpha greater than 0 degrees and here it is less than equal to 180 degrees. Now all of you who have done the simulation of PE systems in Simulink, so you know that when we had alpha equal to 30 degrees, we had converted it into x and x dash, and 30 degrees corresponds to 1.66 milliseconds, and x dash pi plus alpha corresponds to 11.66 milliseconds. So if we carefully see that this firing angle alpha is reference to 0. So another important thing is that the firing angle alpha in positive half cycle is referenced to omega t equal to 0 degrees, and the firing angle pi plus alpha in negative half cycle is referenced to omega t equal to pi radians. Okay, so also I want to remind you that omega t equal to 0 is the natural switching point for the forward diode. So we say omega t equal to 0 is the natural switching point for SCR in the positive half cycle, while omega t equal to pi radians is the natural switching point for SCRs in the negative half cycle. Okay, so let us take an example. So this is my main supply and this is my firing pulses and this is my load voltage. So we know that we have instances omega t equal to 0 and then we have pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, so on and so forth. So pi, 2 pi and 3 pi, and then we have alpha and we have pi plus alpha. So these instances are here. So my mains goes like this. Okay, so my firing pulse for positive half cycle will be generated here. Similarly, for negative half cycle, the firing pulse is generated like this. Similarly, here. Okay, and accordingly, my load voltage will be generated. Okay, so for this firing pulse, the reference is omega t equal to 0, and for this firing pulse, the reference is pi. Okay, so here reference equal to 0 degrees or 0 radians, and for this firing pulse the reference is pi radians. So omega t equal to 0 and omega t equal to pi are two timing instants which are actually existing in the independent signal Vs. So that is why I make a point that omega t equal to 0 radians and omega t equal to pi radians are the reference instants for the firing angles alpha and pi plus alpha respectively, and these two references are nothing but the starting points of the positive half cycle and negative half cycle of the supply mains. Okay, so omega t equal to 0 radians and omega t equal to pi radians are the reference instants for firing angles alpha and pi plus alpha respectively, and these two references are nothing but starting points of positive half cycle and negative half cycle of supply mains. So we can again summarize our discussion till now as: thus the firing pulses at omega t equal to alpha and omega t equal to pi plus alpha must be synchronized with the mains supply. Okay, thus the firing pulses at omega t equal to alpha and omega t equal to pi plus alpha must be synchronized with the main supply. I hope that the need of synchronization is very clear now. Now you go to the second word, UJT. Okay, UJT is an abbreviation for unijunction transistor. UJT, it stands for Let me put it even simpler. U, J and T, unijunction transistor. Okay. So let us write some important points about what is a unijunction transistor. So first point, it is an active component it's a semiconductor device second, it acts as a controlled switch and not as an amplifier. It's an active component, it's a semiconductor device, it acts as a control switch and not act as an amplifier. So UJT is never used as an amplifier. Okay, it is a negative resistance device. It is a negative resistance device. That is, see, conventionally Ohm's law says that across any component the voltage is proportional to current and V equal to IR. That is called as a positive resistance effect. This is a negative resistance. That means what? That as current increases the voltage reduces. But then, well, we cannot call that it is inversely proportional. It's a different kind of an effect. So if I show you the VI characteristics of a UJT, you will appreciate it more why it is called as a negative resistance device. That is, V increases, or you can also say, or we can say V increases when current reduces. Okay. Fourth important thing is, it is a 3-terminal device. It is a 3-terminal device with the terminals emitter denoted as E, and it has base 2 denoted as B2, and it has base 1 denoted as B1. Okay, so it's a 3-terminal device, emitter, base 2 denoted as B2 and base 1 denoted as B1. Okay, and as we said that it acts as a controlled switch. That means there will be some control terminal, there will be some voltage associated, some threshold voltage will be there. So the emitter of a UJT is actually the control terminal. It is a control terminal, just like we have the base B for a BJT in common emitter configuration, and we have the gate G for both SCR as well as a MOSFET. Similarly, the emitter terminal is the control terminal for a UJT, and the potential of the emitter terminal VE will decide what will be the operating status of the UJT. Okay, now we come to this point about how the emitter terminal voltage VE decides the state of the UJT. So the device operation is decided. So we can say better, since UJT acts as a controlled switch, it has only two states, namely on and off. So what is the basis on which it is decided that UJT will act as a closed switch or an open switch? It's here. The emitter terminal voltage VE decides the status of UJT as follows. So if you remember that SCR also, if the device current IA is greater than or equal to latching current IL, the SCR will go from forward blocking state to forward conduction state. Similarly, if the device current IA it falls below another threshold value called as holding current IH, the SCR will fall back to the forward blocking state from forward conduction state. Similarly, UJT has two different voltage levels. So just like SCR has two critical current levels, latching current IL and holding current IH. Similarly, UJT has two critical voltage levels. One is called as a peak voltage, second is called as a valley voltage. So emitter terminal VE decides the status of UJT as follows. So we can say here that just like SCR has two critical current levels, latching current and holding current, UJT has two critical voltage levels, peak voltage and valley voltage. Okay, so VP is called as peak voltage and VV is called as valley voltage. Okay, and associated with the peak voltage we have something called as peak point current. So rather than we will say peak point voltage, that will make it more clear. So we have peak point voltage and we have valley point voltage. And associated with this peak point voltage we have something called as peak point current. Similarly, associated with the valley point voltage we have valley point current IV. Okay, now if the emitter voltage VE is greater than the peak point voltage, UJT becomes on, and if the emitter voltage falls below valley point voltage, then UJT becomes off. Okay, so we can say the device acts as short circuit, device acts as open circuit. Okay, now mathematical equations which are associated are So the peak point voltage Vp is given as Vd added to eta of VBB, where Vd is the cut-in voltage, because if we carefully see the planar structure or planar construction of a UJT, there is a diode which is formed between the two bases and the emitter. That is why we have the cut-in voltage which is equal to 0.7 volts. Eta is called as intrinsic standoff ratio, and it is having a range of 0.51 to 0.82. Okay, so the data sheet of a UJT does mention that what is the value of intrinsic standoff ratio to be considered while analyzing this device, and VBB is nothing but the bias voltage. So just like we have VCC for UJT and VDD for a MOSFET, for a UJT we have the bias voltage denoted as VBB. Okay, if suppose we have intrinsic standoff ratio as 0.6 and the supply voltage bias voltage is 10, then what will be the value of peak voltage? It will be 0.7 plus 0.6 into 10. So for example, if the bias voltage is equal to 10 volts, the data sheet says that the intrinsic standoff ratio is 0.6, then we will have Vp equal to 0.7 plus 0.6 into VBB comes out to be 6.7 volt. This is rough example how we will calculate. Okay. Now about the bases B1 and B2. The two bases B2 comma B1 have a characteristic resistance between them, which is called as interbase resistance, because it is existing between the bases. It is called as interbase resistance. It is denoted as RBB, and it ranges from 4.7K to 9.1K. Okay. Typically, it is 4.K to 9.1 kilo ohm. Okay. Now, having spoken so much about the device, the time has come to actually draw the symbol and also the circuit which is going to help us generate the firing pulses to fire the SCR. Okay. So UJT symbol. So the symbol for UJT looks like this. This is the first base, base 2, B2. This is the second base, B1. And here we draw something like this, and this is my emitter. Okay, so emitter, the first base and the second base, emitter, base and base, and between these two there is this characteristic resistance which we do not draw but is there. It is RBB, and here there is a diode formed. So many a times the symbol for UJT is also drawn like this. This is the diode. Okay, fine. And this is my voltage at emitter, which is going to decide whether my UJT will be on or off. Okay, so this particular device has two datasheet values: peak point voltage VP, valley point voltage, and the associated currents are IP and IV. So this is one pair, peak point voltage and peak point current. Another pair is valley point voltage and valley point current. Okay, and we also have something called as intrinsic standoff ratio here. That is also third parameter, right? So first set of parameters, second set of parameters, and third set of parameters. And what I apply here is my bias voltage VBB. Okay, this is my bias voltage. Having said this, let us directly draw the circuit for UJT operation. Okay, so we can say we have two circuits. One is the plain UJT. Yeah, one more thing I would like to mention, that when UJT is used to generate firing pulses, it is called as a relaxation oscillator. So you should know this, that when, so we can say UJT is used as a relaxation oscillator in order to generate firing pulses to fire an SCR. Okay, so the application in which UJT is used to generate firing pulses, that is called as relaxation oscillator. Always remember, so UJT is used as a relaxation oscillator to generate firing pulses to fire an SCR. Okay, so relaxation oscillator circuit is as follows here. So UJT as a relaxation oscillator. Okay. So first we'll draw the plain UJT and then we'll start putting all the external components so the device can act as a relaxation oscillator. Okay. Let me first draw the plane UJT, the base B2, the base B1, and my emitter. Okay, base B2, base B1, emitter E. Now I will put the external components. The first external component which comes is the resistor RB2. Then comes the second resistor RB1. Here I have one more resistor R. Here I will apply the biasing voltage plus VBB, and here I have one capacitor C. Okay, so understand students that the components which are responsible or who get the credit for generating firing pulses are R and C. Okay, and here we have our voltage VE. Okay, that is the voltage at the emitter terminal E. So the potential at this terminal will decide whether the UJT will be on or off. It's very clear, students, that if this is VE and emitter is connected to capacitor, then understand, students, that the voltage across the capacitor will be responsible for deciding UJT will be on or off. So we can very easily write here that the emitter potential is equal to capacitor potential, right? So we can write down here from the adjoining circuit, we can say that the emitter voltage VE is equal to capacitor voltage. Okay, that means we can say that if the capacitor voltage is greater than peak point voltage, then UJT is equal to on, and if capacitor voltage is less than valley point voltage, UJT equal to off. Now understand, students, when I say on and off, that means here there is a switch kind of operation here. Okay, so we can actually draw it like this. See this carefully. Let me use a different color. Yeah, this is a switch. Okay, so students, understand one thing, that this particular link will act as open switch or closed switch depending upon value of VE. Okay, so we can say this is a link. Okay, so I can say here that, let me use the same color now. link equal to closed if capacitor voltage is greater than peak point voltage, and it is equal to open if capacitor voltage is less than valley point voltage. Okay, now operation. Okay, assume that at t equal to 0 the bias voltage VBB is applied. Okay, assume that at t equal to 0 the bias voltage VBB is applied, and second assumption is that the capacitor is discharged. Okay, so when I say capacitor is discharged, the capacitor voltage is equal to 0 volt. Okay, so now at t equal to 0 I have applied the bias voltage VBB to the circuit shown, and also I am assuming that the capacitor C is fully discharged, that is the capacitor voltage is equal to 0. So now also understand one thing, that the peak point voltages and valley point voltages are both positive. So let me make a point here, that peak point voltage and valley point voltage are both greater than 0. That means they are positive. Okay, yeah. So next point is redrawing the above circuit with Vc equal to 0. So now Vc equal to 0, and the peak point voltage is greater than 0. That means Vc is less than Vp. Okay, so now if Vc equal to 0, then Vc is less than Vp. Since the peak point voltage is greater than 0, Vc equal to 0, hence we can say that the capacitor voltage is less than peak point voltage, hence link equal to open. Okay, link is open now. Redraw it now, the circuit. Okay, fine. So this is the condition at t equal to 0. VBB is applied. The capacitor potential is equal to 0. So emitter voltage is also equal to 0, and peak voltage is greater than 0. So link is open. You see here, please note that this link is open. So link is open, so R and C come in series. So capacitor will start charging from 0 volts towards VBB. So here, because link is open, we can say that capacitor C charges from 0 volts towards VBB with a time constant tau equal to RC. Okay, so capacitor C starts charging from 0 towards VBB with time constant tau equal to RC. So now they are a combination. So this will decide, the value of R will decide how fast or how slow the capacitor will attain the value VBB. Okay. Also understand one more mathematics here, that VBB is greater than peak point voltage is greater than valley point voltage. Okay. So while capacitor is charging from 0 towards VBB, it encounters the critical level peak voltage here. Okay, this is first step. Second, since VBB is greater than peak point voltage, third is that the capacitor voltage, while it is charging from 0 volts towards plus VBB, it encounters the peak point voltage in between. Okay. The fourth thing which happens as, when the capacitor voltage, which is equal to emitter voltage, becomes equal to Vp, what happens is link closes. Okay, link will now close. So now the circuit becomes like this. This link now closes. Now, in case number 1, when capacitor was completely discharged, the capacitor was charging from 0 volts towards VBB at a rate decided by value of R, and in this journey towards VBB it encountered a critical voltage level peak voltage. So now at this stage, capacitor voltage is equal to the peak voltage. So here, understand at this moment that here first the capacitor voltage is equal to emitter voltage is equal to the peak point voltage. Okay. Second, link is closed, and what will happen third is that capacitor, so here in this case the capacitor is now charging. Okay, the capacitor is now here, it is charging from 0 towards VBB. In this case, when the link closes, capacitor will now discharge towards 0 through RB1. Okay, so link closes, capacitor C starts discharging from, it has attained a value peak voltage, start discharging from peak point voltage towards 0 volts. But what happens is, in this journey it encounters the valley point voltage VV in between. Okay, So fourth, when the capacitor voltage becomes equal to valley point voltage, what happens is the link again opens. And you know that when the link opens, what happens? When the link opens, then capacitor starts charging again. So this circuit again shifts from this mode to this mode. Okay, so now the link is closed. Here, so this again goes here. Again, this link goes to this mode. Okay, so the saga continues that when the link is open, capacitor charges. When the link is closed, capacitor discharges, and this continues to happen. Okay, so we can conclude here that link opening to closing and closing to opening, it leads to the capacitor charging from valley voltage to peak point voltage and from peak point voltage to valley point voltage. This is what happens continuously. Now that is okay that all these things are happening. What we're interested to know is that where is the output voltage taken from. So where are the firing pulses coming from? Students, firing pulses are coming from here. This is my VO. That is the voltage across the resistor RB1 is where we are going to get the firing pulses from. How do we say that? Very simple. When the link is open, what happens is that the voltage across RB1 is 0. So you see here, when the link is open, there is no current flowing here. There is no current. So the current flowing through RB1 will decide. So we can also put it here that the output voltage VO is equal to I into RB1. So let us say this is the current I. Okay, I into RB1. So we can say that when the emitter voltage, which is equal to capacitor voltage, is less than peak voltage, link is open, and because of this I equal to 0. Therefore, the output voltage is equal to 0 volts when the capacitor is charging. On the other hand, when the emitter voltage is equal to capacitor voltage is equal to peak voltage, link equal to closed, capacitor discharges, and the entire discharge current is flowing through RB1. So we can say the current I in this case is equal to the capacitor current. Therefore, we get VO equal to IC discharge into RB1, and this is sudden. So it's very simple. If you want to actually plot, it happens something like this. The capacitor voltage, time t. See, now our system is yet not synchronized with a 50 Hz system. So I'm not writing t here. I'm not writing omega t here, I'm writing t here. So for capacitor, let us put two levels, the peak point voltage and the valley point voltage. And we put here as the output voltage VO. Okay, so initially the capacitor will start charging from 0 towards VB, and here we have VBB. The capacitor will start charging like this as per time constant, and as soon as it reaches here, link closes and here it starts discharging. So understand, students, one thing, that the value of R is much greater than the value of RB1, because of which the charging time constant will be much greater than discharging time constant. So capacitor will charge slower and it discharge faster. Okay, and this continues like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, and like this. Okay, so this is time constant RC, and this is time constant RB1 into C. So the output voltage goes something like this. So when the capacitor is charging, the output voltage is 0, and when it is discharging, then you get the pulse there. Okay, so here okay, and so, हो गया ना? Fine. So these are the firing pulses.